start. Yep, we'll start right over here. Andy?
You talked a bit about, their effort needs to improve, but what has Taiwan done to really lock down that starting job there?
Well, he's been consistent in his approach. I think he graded out his best game that he's graded out so far this year against Washington. So I think his confidence is improving. You're seeing more consistency. He's using what he's doing in practice and in his learning about what needs to be done in terms of taking on blocks in a run game and also in the pass rush. Using the tools that Coach Johnson and Coach Patricia are giving him, and now they're starting to show up on the field. And it's a mindset, and his mindset's changed, and because of that, you're seeing better play.
Front row, Jeff Gilbert.
I know you don't want a game to come down to a kick, but with Jaden, how do you feel about him right now this year, in his second year doing this?
He might be our leading tackler on kickoff, which is not good, but he passed the toughness test, I guess, for a kicker. No, I think that every day in practice he's getting more and more consistent, and we put him into situations where if we make the field goal, everyone goes on to period 2. If we don't, we have up downs or gassers, and we're constantly putting them in situations where they're meaningful. And he keeps answering the call on those and proving that we can trust him in big moments, and that's what this is all about, is earning trust every day. And he's doing that with his teammates. And when you're a kicker, it's one shot, one kill. That's the terms we use, because when you go in there, you only get one shot to be right. And it's about discipline, it's about focus, and making sure that you're not worried about anything other than just that one play and that kick. And he's shown that he's doing that. His confidence is getting higher and higher, and we're going to need him, because at some point this season it's going to come down to those types of plays, coming down to 1 point, one play, and we're going to need him.
Tony Birdman.
Ryan, you mentioned yesterday the desire for more explosives. When you look back at that Washington game, were there opportunities for that in the passing game that just didn't quite happen?
Well, I think there's a lot that goes with it. There certainly were plays that were designed to push the ball down the field, but coverage dictated that we had to either check the ball down or the second part of the route or whatever it might be. So we're always going to look to create explosive plays, but we also have to take what the defense gives us and be willing to do that. I think just across the country, you're seeing a lot of defenses, with the number of plays going down, keep it in front, make them, drive the entire field, not give up explosive plays. I listened to Coach Fish's press conference, and it was like, we're just going to keep it in front and make them work the ball all the way down the field. I thought they had a good game plan. But we also had 16 plays over 10 yards, which is good. And if we're finishing off the drives, and we're really efficient, that's what matters the most. Which is a contrast to maybe where it was a few years ago when the clock stopped after first downs, when we were working more off a no huddle. The game was a little bit different, and you were seeing more plays and more points. But ultimately, it's about efficiency and winning the game. So it's all cyclical, but we're always looking to be explosive, as you know.
Steve Hellwagon.
Hey, Coach, I'm back here.
Hey, Steve.
Julian, felt like you guys eased him into the game there last week, and in the second half, he was 8 of 9, I think, on that touchdown drive to start the second half. Do you feel like he passed the test in the first half, handling the hostile environment to where you felt comfortable, and going forward, Illinois and some of the other games you're going to have?
Yeah, I see what you guys see, and I think that's somebody who's building confidence every time he's out there, building confidence around the guys that are around him, his teammates, and so we're going to keep doing that. He knows the number one goal is to win the game, and that was the goal in the first one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. And it'll be the same thing this week. But he's, like you said, the more and more things that we're going to put on his plate and ask him to do will increase. But he's taking care of the football, which is the most important thing, and winning games, and that's what we have to make sure we focus on here. All that being said, I do think that he's getting more and more comfortable in the offense, understands how we want to attack teams, and I think you're seeing that in his play. So great opportunity here on Saturday to keep building on that.
To the left here, Doug Lamreese.
Ryan, it seems like there have been a couple guys when we talked about him kind of playing with an edge.
Yeah.
I think Davidson's come up that way. I think Philip Daniels, watching him Montgomery play. What does that mean to you, and what do guys like that bring to a team?
Well, it's funny when you have different people come watch you practice. You know, Greg Madison came out to practice today, which was great to see him, and just different people come. Coach Tressel was here yesterday, and just different people watch, and people who have been around football. You just ask their opinion, and this goes back to spring, in August, and then now, and just get a lot of feedback. You know, you guys, you have a good team, but you're a lot different than you were last year. Just different. And when you ask me, you know, what do you see? And I think I've said this for a while. It's an edgy group. They're competitive. They go after it every day. And there was a point in the spring where we had to stop practice and just run 53s because there were fights breaking out in practice. And that's not a good thing for discipline. But it did show that these guys, you know, they're edgy and they like to compete. And that's something that we want to have as an identity. And I think you're seeing that with this group. Now we have to understand that, you know, we can't have penalties and we have to be disciplined, but these guys are going to back down to nobody. And they like playing, and they got an edge and chip on their shoulder, and that's the way we have to be.
Got time for two more, Austin?
And I'll just go back to that too. I think it's important. I believe this, and I share this with the guys every day. The most desperate and hungry team is going to win every Saturday. And we have to make sure that we wake up every day in that same mentality, you know. And, you know, that's when you win games, you know, week after week, sometimes that's not easy to do. So it's my job, and it's our job as coaches, and it's the job of the leaders here to make sure we wake up with a bad attitude every day and that we're showing up with an edge. And it's okay if you piss somebody off once in a while, because that's how you have to play this game. You know, this game is not played any other way. And that's the way we have to practice. And if we're practicing that way, we're going to play that way.
I would think it could be hard for the defending national champs to be the most desperate hungry team.
It's a mindset. It's a mindset, you know. What are we're trying to prove every day, somebody right and somebody wrong, and that has to be the way we show up every day. And if you emphasize that, you're going to get it if guys believe in it. I think our guys do.
Over here, Austin. When did you become absolutely convinced that Austin could play left tackle?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that's important as a head coach is you give position coaches, you know, the responsibility to make decisions on personnel, but then they have to stand by them. And it's you know, it's my job to make sure I'm challenging constantly who's in the game, if we're making the right decisions, if we believe in the scheme. And, you know, typically if somebody sort of, you know, backs down, then I know that they don't believe in it. If somebody pounds the table and says, no, I believe in this, that's what I want to hear as a head coach. Somebody that believes in what they're doing and has conviction. And Tyler Bowen had conviction that Austin would be our best left tackle. And then over time, just like anything, Austin built trust in the coaching staff and his teammates that he was doing his job every play. And when you don't notice somebody, that means they're doing their job in the offensive line. And Austin is a captain. Austin's an Iron Buckeye. And he earned the respect of the team in the offseason, and he's earned the respect of his team now on the field with his play.
Last question to Bill.
Luke Montgomery was the offensive player of the game last week. What has he done?
Yep.
Obviously, he's been left all year. How well is he playing? How important is he?
Yeah, I think Luke and Carson were both the players of the game, which has never happened before here. But I felt like on the road, they handled themselves like pros. You know, Luke was looking back to get the signal. His back is to the defense. Carson is making the calls in a loud environment, and the two of them, I thought, handled that excellent. And I thought it had to do with their approach going into the bye week and the way they handled it. And that took a lot of pressure off of everybody, including the quarterback. And so I think for Luke, once he got his opportunity there in the playoffs, he took it and ran. And he had an edge. He had some competitiveness. Like, he'd come off the field and you know, start throwing me around. You know, I mean, you just love that as a coach. And he played that way through the playoffs. He's built his confidence up in the off season, in the weight room, and you're starting to see him play his best football right now. Thanks, guys. Yep.